Democratic Senator Chris Coons heard that President Trump said that the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip. He was talking to Frank Thorpe, our top congressional producer, and he covered his face in disbelief, telling NBC News that you can report I was speechless. That's what he told Thorpe. Joining me now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, member of the Foreign Relations, Judiciary and Appropriations Committees, and a former, I believe, subcommittee chair of the Africa Subcommittee, someone who has had long involvement with PEPFAR and other of our foreign aid programs. You've had time now to process the news about Gaza that came yesterday. In a prepared statement, clearly, the president was reading notes. What's your reaction to the president of the United States?
Well, Andrea, I thought the announcement by Trump, which seemed to surprise even Prime Minister Netanyahu, that we would occupy Gaza and forcibly relocate 2 million Palestinians when the neighboring countries, Egypt and Jordan, do not want Palestinians to be forcibly relocated to their territory, and Gazans are not seeking to be relocated, struck me as a dangerous distraction. Part of why I had that expression was I had just come from the floor of the Senate, where I was talking earnestly, eagerly, pressing a whole group of my colleagues about the importance of foreign aid and what is going on right now, where President Trump is effectively shutting down the global network of programs that keep us safer and stronger, that help prevent public health diseases, outbreaks like Ebola in Uganda from getting to the United States. They help counter human trafficking in countries like Mexico. They help provide stability and security in countries that have been torn apart by civil war. The Chinese are already moving into some of the spaces we're leaving because of our withdrawal from foreign assistance around the world. And I think who's going to be cheering the decision by President Trump to shut down USAID and foreign aid is terrorists and traffickers, China and Russia. His further suggestion, Andrea, that we should somehow go into the Gaza Strip, occupy it, and rebuild it, I think is both a distraction from what's going on, the pushback on Elon Musk and his role in shutting down foreign aid, and a dangerous and ill-conceived proposal.
Do you worry about the safety of the hostages, that Islamic Jihad or Hamas could retaliate because of this?
Yes. Look, a ceasefire was in place. Hostages were being released. There was a path forward. And now President Trump has thrown it all into chaos again with a out-of-the-box proposal that nobody saw coming. He is an unconventional president who's more used to leadership on reality TV than on the complex diplomatic field of a place like the Middle East. The heads of state of all the surrounding countries have worked with the United States to try and move forward a regional plan for peace. It did not include forcibly relocating millions of Palestinians. Let me also add, Andrea, that Gaza today is a humanitarian disaster. There is very little water, food, housing. It has largely been destroyed in the war since the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas. And President Trump is right now laying off exactly those Americans who have experience dealing with refugees, with folks who need clean water and public health and safety, and who need shelter. That's what USAID does. They respond to natural disasters. When there's a hurricane or an earthquake, they send in the so-called DART team from AID, and they have partners around the world. It's exactly the folks who could make that recovery in Gaza possible who are being defunded and laid off and whose programs are being shut down.
Now, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has tapped the Director of Foreign Assistance at State Department, Pete Morocco, to review the agency's work. There were reports that he was at the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He was not charged, though. We've requested comment, but what is your reaction to that?
Look, I don't know Peter Morocco, but what I am hearing is that he's in charge of the waiver process that Secretary Rubio set up to allow organizations to come in and appeal and say that their work is urgent and humanitarian or critical to American security. And while waivers have been signed, money is not flowing. And that's why so many local partners are being laid off and vital programs shut down. It is alarming, if true, that Mr. Morocco was part of the January 6th riot in the Capitol, but frankly, not out of keeping with an administration that has pardoned hundreds of folks who were convicted of assaulting police officers in our Capitol.
Do you worry about a brain drain at CIA with a buyout offer by the Musk people communicated through the leadership, the new leadership at CIA, a buyout offer for the entire workforce?
Yes, an oddly worded email offering a buyout, a fork in the road email, was sent to most of the civilian workforce of the U.S. government. That's a lot of people. And the CIA has now extended that to their workforce, which I'll remind you includes people with critical national security knowledge and experience. Just as we're losing a generation of knowledge, skill, and experience in foreign aid and our development professionals who've served us around the world, so too this buyout offer, which I question whether it's even legal or appropriate, I think would weaken our critical intelligence community and our largest and in some ways most important part of the intelligence community, the CIA. I will be talking with Director Ratcliffe later today about exactly this.
And what do you know about Russian propaganda trying to take advantage of all this, and perhaps Chinese as well?
When we create an opening by withdrawing from the world, by this sort of chaotic leadership, then our adversaries take advantage of it. I heard reports earlier today that an AID program that's been shut down in Nepal, the Chinese are already offering to come in and take it over and help the Nepalese in their moment of need. I think that when we have disorder in our intelligence services, in the Department of Defense, in some of our domestic agencies like SBA or education, or when there is an infiltration of the Treasury database that has information on every American, it both unsettles our democracy, it causes concern to millions of Americans. My phones have been ringing off the hook. And I think, Andrea, the only appropriate response to several of these abrupt actions is litigation to get a temporary restraining order. It worked last week on the domestic funding shutdown. My hope is it will work going forward on some of the ways that the privacy of Americans have been compromised and that our national security is being put at risk.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you so much.